What a great morning and Happy New Year to you. This is such a treat. I remember growing up always looking forward to seeing the Rose Parade in different ways. First, it was sitting on top of my dad's shoulders, and then, of course, later on, having a couple of ladders side by side with a piece of plywood in the middle, and I'm propped up there on top. And then later in high school, spending the night along Orange Grove. And now here today, broadcasting from the corner of Orange Grove in Colorado. So if you haven't ever come here in person, it's so much fun to see. I know that we in Southern California, some of us might take it for granted, some of us don't. And of course, those who travel from all over the world who have seen it on TV say, you know, nothing really compares to seeing it in person. And you can almost smell those roses as they go by on these floats that are here today. Besides the floats, there are plenty of bands. The Londonderry High School Band from New Hampshire is participating today. They've become a sought-after ensemble in recent years. They've done all kinds of shows. They've done halftime for the Boston Celtics, and the list goes on and on. So again, a great opportunity for some kids doing really great things. The Downey Rose Float Association, this is a stroll down memory lane. It's a float design that's chosen by a design contest, like a lot of communities do, to get everybody involved. And so this float is a kind of an Edwardian-era park in spring. And so you can kind of see all the flowers, the beautiful fountain with cascading streams of water. And that water, a lot of the white, you know what that is by now, 3 or 4 different kinds of coconut. And all the decorators, by the way, are volunteers from Downey and other local communities. And the decor chairman happens to be the manager of the park decor and visual display at Ware but Knott's Berry Farm, and volunteering for 5 years. And Miss Downey is writing right there on the front staircase, Ashley. Now you're hearing some sound effects in the background, and Seth, that is your cue, because that is the sound of Pac-Man. Let's give that a whirl. Woo! You know, that in the day was how we played video games, right? We went to the arcade. 30 years. This is the anniversary, 30th anniversary of Pac-Man, and so this float is celebrating that with quite the tribute to Mr. Pac-Man. It's a fully choreographed show, actually. It's a Pac-Man street party, and the designer said he wanted to make it kind of like a birthday cake party where you see Pac-Man holding the cake up in the air, and around him are the ghosts, you know, those ghosts that you see on the video games, chasing and munching and trying to get to Pac-Man. But the Pac-Man game, by the way, is going to have a brand new home version that's coming up. But this, of course, was before the day of Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty. Good old Pac-Man. Born on May 22nd, 1980. Well, now you're starting to hear some more music. That would be the Downington High School Blue and Gold Marching Band from Exton, Pennsylvania. And we have to turn them up here in a second here, Julian. The heartwarming story, you know, they were stranded on the East Coast because of all that snow. And they tried an Air Force plane. They tried buses. And finally, Continental found a plane, created a special flight to Los Angeles for the Downington High School Band. Let's give them a listen. I guess you can kind of hear them. They're not playing as much right now. I guess we can turn that down. They kind of go through phases where they're waiting to make their way in front of the TV cameras. I think they catch their breath, and then they crank up the song again. Now you can hear a little bit in the background. Well, up next, after that band, we're going to be seeing the Beverly Hills Float. And good old 90210 is going to turn 100 in 2014. And so this is in anticipation of their big centennial celebration. The city of Beverly Hills, one of the most glamorous cities, kicking off that big celebration with quite the float. It features this fusion of floral and art. And it's a bit of an electric fountain that you're seeing. Is really beautiful. A lot of purples and whites and pinks, and it looks like we have some Marines on that float. Over 10,000 orchids. 10,000 are spraying over what are the trees on this float. 40,000 roses in hues from light peach to dark coral to create this garden look, and 5,000 long-stemmed roses. I'm sure that those long-stemmed roses probably come from South America. But quite the celebration that we'll be hearing about for the next couple of years as Beverly Hills gets ready to turn 100 years old. Well, as our coverage continues, many more floats as we wind our way, about 20 minutes left on this Rose Parade, this 122nd celebration of all things great in Southern California. It is a picture-perfect day. It is Rose Parade and Rose Bowl weather, and so glad you're with me. Cindy Dole here. Our coverage continues on KFWB News Talk 980 right after this. It is a picture-perfect day on this New Year's Day. Of course it has to be for the Rose Parade. A lot of sunshine. It's now a little warmer, 53 degrees, crisp, but it's going to be great for the Rose Bowl game, too. Just over the way as we're coming to you live from the corner of Orange Grove and Colorado. We have the Goodyear blimp above. We had the Stealth Bomber earlier. And the Burbank Tournament of Roses Association put on quite the show with their nonprofit group raising funds for the float. More than 100 years, people have been building their dreams and friendships and memories in Burbank. And this float, of course, depicting all that is entertaining and of course, good old Burbank, beautiful downtown Burbank. They have quite the animation on this float. It's featuring several major elements with a 10-foot-long camera boom that moves left and right and up and down as if a picture is being made right there, and a little pyrotechnic display. And it shows everything from the SpongeBob character waving his arm to the movie clapboards to the City Hall Tower to, of course, Disney and everything Burbank. So great, great float. Saving America's Mustangs Foundation also participating in the parade today. Wild horses, a big symbol of our American heritage, and this is a group that's all about making sure that they are saved. They say that 100 years ago there were 2 million of these wild Mustangs roaming free. Today that's dwindled down to 30,000, and so this is a group that's all about trying to change that. And it's afloat with a herd of wild Mustangs galloping down the Rose Parade under the watchful eyes of a concerned Native American and a swooping American eagle. A lot of bands in this parade as well as of the equestrian units and the floats. And we were talking about earlier how the high school band from Pennsylvania, where they were really sweating bullets, they weren't going to be able to get here on time. But thanks to Continental Airlines, they got a plane and they made it possible, and they're here. Now we're looking at the HGTV float, of course, one of my favorite TV channels, watching all things home garden. This designer really was looking at cows. There's a lot of cows, but they had to look like Vermont cows. And so these folks who work on the detail of the art that goes into a float, they have to look at books and sketches and make sure that they have the anatomy of the cow down right. Because otherwise they say, you know what, we hear from it. We hear from people who are critics will say, sorry, that isn't what a cow in Vermont looks like at all. So this HGTV float is celebrating of course, they have every year a lucky winner who gets their dreams come true, the HGTV Dream Home, and that's what this is all about. With the rolling hills, the Dream Home has walls covered with a blend of farina and cocoa powder, and the windows are framed in redwood bark and panes of cut blue and lavender status. A very, very cute float. Now we have dragons in the city of Torrance. They're celebrating their 57th year in the Rose Parade. The theme is Afternoon Tea with Friends. And it's a beautiful mystical garden scene that brings kind of a fancy tale to life with friends building dreams and memories, and that's what this is all about. It's a very happy dragon having a little cup of tea. An old-fashioned English garden of shades of pinks and lavenders and purples and whites, all created with delphiniums. You gotta love them. Snapdragons. And look at that dragon, even has some steam coming out of his nostrils. But you gotta love her little eyelashes. It's a little bit of a hydraulic system that keeps this float going, and you have a lot of freeway overpasses here in Pasadena, so they have to be able to get them from the barn to here and lower them from 24 feet down to 16 feet in less than 45 seconds to travel under the freeway bridge and the low wires all along the parade route. But this enormous dragon just seems to come to life and moves his head back and forth, 24 feet tall, serving some tea and wagging its tail. Now we have some more girl power, the Cowgirls Historical Foundation. These are American quarter horses that are known for their dependability and their quickness in the quarter mile, and it's the most popular breed in the United States. This cowgirl group, by the way, they are saddled up for patriotism. They perform all over the world, and they donate their hours each year, and they strive to honor our Western heritage in celebrating the equestrian lifestyle. They've been in the parade for about 5 years. Let's hear it for the city of Glendale. This is another community float. Glendale over 100 years old, and this theme is called Say Cheese, showing a photography from the early days, the days of tintypes up to today's digital pictures, and recording our times for future generations. It's a very pretty float. The Swiss cheese float theme at the front is created with yellow mums and some yellow straw flour and the quote-unquote holes of cheese. You look for that and you see the black onion seed and the brown flax seed. And again, anything that you'll find in your cupboard, that's what they use on these rose floats. I love the hand's tail and the cocoa stick whiskers that they have on the mouse, this little Minnie Mouse paparazzo. Well, the fun continues as they are winding our way with about 10 more minutes still on this Rose Parade live coverage, coming to you from where all the action is at the corner of Colorado and Orange Grove. Cindy Dole here, and don't you go away because we have more fun to tell you about here on KFWB News Talk 980.